What's up everybody, it's me Zombie, and today I'm working on my Jedi robes. I want to wear these to the Rogue One premiere, and I figured that you guys might want some cool Jedi robes too, so I'm going to walk you through how I made mine. I know these robes look pretty simple, but patterning and cutting everything out and sewing everything can be kind of time consuming and a little bit confusing, so this tutorial should help you out on your own cosplay adventure. I'm starting out by pressing some tinfoil on half of my dress form. When you're lifting your pattern off of your mannequin, this tinfoil is going to help that pattern come up a little bit better, and it'll also give it a protective side so your pattern won't stick to itself once you're peeling it off and get ruined. After applying the masking tape to one half of my mannequin, I'm going to start patterning out what I want my undershirt to look like. I'm just drawing in some seams with a Sharpie and kind of thinking in my head how this is all going to fit together. I know this pattern looks pretty complex, and in hindsight it really is just covered by the underrobes all the time. If you want to make this more simple for yourself, you really could just wear a long sleeve shirt under your robes, or if you don't have a dress form, you can use a shirt of your own to make a masking tape pattern. After my pattern's all planned out, I'm using an X-Acto blade to cut off my pieces of my pattern. And on some bits, I'm just using some scissors. Since I put my tinfoil down, the pattern should come off of my mannequin pretty easily. After pulling off my pattern, I'm transferring it onto the fabric that I want to make my undershirt out of. I have the fabric folded in a way to where it's 2 layers thick. This is just so when I cut out my pattern, I only have to do it once. You can see I'm also giving about an inch of room around where I'm cutting my pattern. This is giving me some seam allowance when I pin and sew everything together. To keep my patterns in place while cutting, I just pin them right to the fabric. After cutting them all out, I'm just pressing them all together on the edges where they were together on my mannequin. I'm using these little clips to clip them all together, but you can use pins too. I just like using these because they're a bit easier to use and I get poked a lot less, which is always a good thing. Now I'm sewing these all together. This is where leaving that extra seam allowance really comes in handy. I'm just using a straight stitch, and this came together actually pretty quickly. For my robes, I made a simple pattern by tracing myself onto a double layer of linen and cutting it out and then sewing it together. After the basic construction was done, I'm able to add in all of my details. On my robe, you can see I added some elastic. I just added some really simple elastic. It's going to be covered by 2 different belts anyway, but it just helps kind of keep the fabric together exactly how I want it to sit when everything else is on. This is how the undershirt came together, which I think looks pretty cool, but is mostly hidden by these robes, unfortunately. I added my extra collar by making a straight rectangle exactly how I made my long brown fabric pieces and just sewed them straight to the robe. I just cut out a triangle in the front of my robe and everything fit together pretty well. I did a simple hem around the sleeves to make it so the ends won't fray, and I think those look pretty cool too. Now on to my cloak. I wanted a cool gray cloak for my Jedi, but as you can see, this is white fabric. They didn't have any gray linen at the store, so I'm having to make the cloak and then dye it. For my cloak, I made it the exact same way as my underrobes. I traced a snow angel pattern of myself, cut out the 2 pieces, and sewed them together to get my outer cloak. For my hood, I used a really simple shape. It's pretty much just 2 semicircles sewed together, but leaving the end and the front open so I could attach them to the cloak and hem the front of the hood. It took me a couple tries to get the dye bath for my cloak just right. It turned out blue the first couple of times, so always use a test swatch when you're dyeing just so you don't ruin your entire costume by dyeing it the wrong color. I used test swatches on a couple different kinds of gray dye, and I'm glad I did because the first couple turned out blue. I finally ended up using Rit brand gray dye, and it turned my fabric exactly the color that I wanted it to. On Jedi robes, there are sometimes these long pieces of fabric that fit under the belt but over the underrobes. Since I wanted these pieces to be really stiff and sturdy, I made them 4 layers deep with linen, sewed them on the inside, and then flipped them inside out so I would have nice seams on the outside. For the fabric pieces in front, I needed to add some darts just so it would sit correctly when I was wearing it. I just folded the fabric how I wanted it to look under itself and then sewed a seam right on top of it. To make them even more rigid, I sprayed them with some spray starch and went over them with an iron. Now for the important finishing touches. Linen wrinkles pretty easily, especially if you have it balled up or sitting next to a bunch of clothes or if it's been in a Joann's bag forever. So hitting it with some starch and ironing it is really going to help it look crisp and clean and nice. And here are all of my robes sitting on my mannequin. I'm really happy with them. I might go over the cloak one more time with an iron before the premiere, but it's pretty much done. And it's a cooler time of year, so this will actually be really comfy and cozy. I can't wait to wear it. And that's it, my Jedi robes are done. Hopefully this has been helpful if you want to make some robes of your own. I'm going to continue posting progress of my Jedi costume. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!